Thank you. Good morning and welcome to Foothills County Ag Service Board meeting for November 6, 2025. We do have a proposed emergent item. I believe the paper was in front of you this morning. Municipal reserve licensing. Ms. McHugh, do you want to speak to why this is emergent?
That would be no.
Or somebody speak to why?
Well, I forgot to make this, I put MR licensing in my update, but I didn't make this the ASV report following it. So that's my bad. That's why it's emergent.
Okay. Thank you. We need to get her done. So we would need a motion to add it onto the agenda as an emergent item. Mr. Nelson gives us that, and it does need to be unanimous in order to add it. So just keep that in mind. So all those in favor of adding it as an emergent item, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So then a motion to approve the agenda. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. So we will add that 12.1. Okay, so a motion then to adopt the agenda in its entirety. Councillor Alger gives us that. All in favor?
I'm not voting. I told I can't vote. I don't.
Oh, right. Yep. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Call to order. Do we not have, I guess we don't have minutes added on the front here? Down, okay. Okay, we'll just carry on then. Alberta Transportation presentation. Thank you, Mr. Justin Corbiel, for joining us here today. We appreciate you taking the time for us. So this is the Ag Service Board for Foothills County. Why don't I guess you can start by introducing yourself, and I believe you have something to share about what you do, how it works, such.
Yeah, good morning. So I don't have much of a presentation, but first off, I'll introduce myself. Yes, I'm Justin Corbiel with Alberta Transportation. I'm the maintenance contract inspector for CMA 521, which involves Foothills and Wheatland County. Out of the entire CMA, we roughly cover about 3,000 lane kilometers. And over those lane kilometers, we would have close to about 3,500 hectares or 8,600 acres of right-of-way that we would be, I guess, trying to maintain, whether that be through mowing, vegetation control, and weed spraying. Keith had asked me to come in and just kind of introduce myself, and if you guys had any questions for us, then I'll do what I can to answer. If I can't answer them today, I can certainly go back and either look through our contract or discuss it with our manager or our ops manager and see what we can find out for you. So typically in a year, what we'll do is we'll mow our highway right away twice a year. First time sometime in June, and then the second time will be August, September. Each time, I usually divide our budget between Foothills and Wheatland. So we'll usually try and do about 750 hectares per cut in each area. So Foothills throughout a year would get close to, if not right at the 1,500 hectare mark. Certain highways do get the full cut every year. All our roads are based on class, whether it be A+, A, B, C, and D, and that's all done through traffic volumes. So most of the lower secondaries in your gravel roads are all going to be in your Ds. Many other secondaries are going to be in your Bs and Cs. So they'll usually only get the 15-foot cut if the budget allows, and the spring didn't see much regrowth. We can usually go down a little bit further, but your main highways like your Highway 2 and that we usually try and do, well, we will do a full cut along divided highways, medians, stuff like that, just to increase visibility. Also helps with snow drift in the winter. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the majority of what I have. If there's any questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
How often do you spray and what do you spray with?
So in about the last, sorry, 5 years, we've brought up a little project where we do shoulder spray, which is a 1.5 meter shoulder spray on all highways. We've divided that up into a 2-year basis. So 1 year we'll do all 1s and 2-digit highways, and then the second year will be all 3-digit highways. That's an ongoing thing that we're doing. After that, it's sort of based on either complaints or what we actually physically see in the right of way. As far as chemicals used, that I might have to get back to you.
It's not critical. I guess I want to know what you're seeing for weeds. We have scentless chamomile coming up on our agenda later on. Do you target specific weeds?
Yeah, anything that's noxious or prohibited is our number one concern. So the scentless chamomile, black henbane, I actually saw quite a bit this year. Hoary cress, that was a big one in Wheatland County for a lot of years. We've got that one kind of under control, but yeah, those are usually our main ones. And then in the fall is when we'll really try and attack all the thistle, whether it's, sow thistle, Canadian thistle, any of those.
Further questions? I'm curious about garbage. So the 4-H clubs pick up a lot of garbage along the highways. Do they pick up along all the AT highways, or how do you work that?
Yeah, I do believe they cover, well, it's probably got to be about 95+%. There might be the odd road where a group either doesn't show up, but I think in our digital mapping, we've got basically every road, every highway is covered with a group. There's usually a list of groups that are waiting to get on. So as soon as one decides they no longer want to do it, then it's quickly replaced with another one. It's been fantastic over the years. They do pick up a massive amount of garbage. After that, it's basically up to our maintenance contractor, which in this area is Volker Steven, to continue the cleanup. If there's any debris or anything along the road or right away, it's up to them to remove.
Okay, thanks. Councillor McHugh?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Through the chair, is there a process in place? You don't see it as often in Foothills and Wheatland, but in Vulcan County, occasionally you'll see them haying the ditches. So is there a process in place if producers want to hay a ditch to get a permit to do such a thing, or is there a process for that?
Yeah, great question. So we do have permitting in place. They can get in contact with either me directly or just Alberta Transportation. We usually try and limit it to 20 kilometers of roadway, and then they can do both sides of the ditch. The only thing we don't allow is the median on a divided highway. But yeah, it's actually a great service. So if there's ever a highway that looks appealing to anybody, or if you guys hear of somebody who wants to do it, they can get into contact with me. And it's, I find it's more highly used in Wheatland than it has been in here in the recent years, but
Counselor Alger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the city of Calgary is hauling a lot of topsoil out from new construction areas. They strip the land and then they haul out to a lot out to Foothills County. We put a development permit system into place to do that with road use agreements if they use our roads. And one of the things we found is that they try to stick to lands that are on two number and three number highways of Alberta transportation because they don't need a road use agreement. Do you have anything in place for that? Like we're talking, I don't know, we did one last year on 552 West, just off of Highway 2. And I'm talking like probably 5,000 loads of truck and pup. And like it really broke up, you know, like Boker Steven had to go in there and patch quite a few spots along there. And you can see the damage to the road. I'm just wondering if you have a concern about that or if something that we need to look at further.
So with that, it obviously would be a concern to us, but there's not really a whole lot that we can do. It is a provincial highway that all taxpayers pay for, so it's up to them to utilize.
Yeah.
I mean, if the damage is getting so severe to a certain highway, we can possibly go through the process of getting a road ban put in place.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And not a guarantee that that would go through.
Like-
And then there may be some locals that may not find that quite appealing, but
Yeah. Lighter trucks, but more trucks.
yeah.
Still got a whole thing on dirt. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just, it's getting to be real concerned because these construction areas just, they got to get rid of this dirt somewhere. And, you know, granted, a lot of farmers want to put a couple of feet of topsoil on their farms, but the amount of trucks is just overwhelming to the residents.
Yeah, and I actually do know of, I think the case that you were talking about, because we did get some complaints and concerns about
Yep.
that as well. And
Yep.
that was sort of what came down the line is there wasn't a whole lot we could do to stop them.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
But yeah, it does increase the need for maintenance on a highway.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Counselor Kendall?
Is there a charge to the permit to hay in the ditches?
No, that is a free service. So the only thing they need is I can't recall if it's a $1 million or $2 million liability insurance, but that's it. That's all they need.
Okay, thanks.
When you go south of Highway here, like Highway to Nanton, there's a few years ago, they put those cable guardrails up. So 16 miles or something thereabouts. And every summer I drive by and there's a crew out with the little weed whippers and working away. And I just, you know, whenever I see that, I just picture the dollar values. What kind of maintenance costs are associated with having those cable guardrails? Do you know that?
As far as the weed whipping, that's all included in their mowing costs. So that's relatively nothing. We are also finding with the mowing that they're actually coming up with better systems to actually attach to the mower itself, and it'll do the whipping on stuff like that as they're mowing. The maintenance cost, though, on the guardrail is quite substantial. I don't know what it is about those systems, but they're an absolute magnet for vehicles, especially in the 6-7 months of winter that we have. We've seen an increase in the cost over the recent months. The steel tariffs have just increased it even more so, but I guess from our standpoint, though, is can you put the cost on safety?
Right.
But yeah, it's quite a substantial cost.
Yeah, if somebody's life is saved for every time that there's somebody hitting those things, that's a lot of lives. So, yeah. Oh, sorry, Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
You bet, we can hear you good.
Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Dave Anderson. I'm participating virtually, as you can see. Back to weed control for Mr. Corbeil. You mentioned that you do try and get to the thistle in the fall. I'm curious, how do you subcontract that work out, or is that something that is done by Volker Steven, or how is that actually completed?
So Volker Steven subcontracts all the chemical spray. Over the last 5-6 years, they've been using a company based out of Strathmore. It's Renew Tech, RENU-L-Tech. We've seen, I guess, a great work out of them. I would say mostly depends on what kind of a spray application we decide to do. If it's a roadway that sees a lot of weeds, we basically have a few different ways of doing it. We can do full right-of-way spray, whether it's on-road or off-road, or we can do spot spray. Much of that depends on what our budget sort of allows for. Yeah, that's who has been doing it over the recent years.
Okay, and thanks. So what would be the process to actually notify you of what we think would be a problem? Because it sounds like there's a long chain of command then to get to the actual contractor.
Well, I guess regardless if you went through Volker, they would have to get that work approved through myself. So the best way of having a weed issue, I guess, completed would be to either go through myself, or you could go through Keith, and we usually stay in contact with a lot of weed problems throughout the county. So if you were to go through Keith and he finds it's on a provincial highway, then he would just notify me to get in contact with Volker to have that done.
All right, good. Thank you.
Councillor Kendall.
Okay, thanks for tweaking my memory on the cables. Guardrails. Okay, 549 from Okotoks to the 22. Probably 8-9 years ago was the cable guardrails came in. And when I was campaigning, I had a very serious concern brought to my attention, and I knew of one previously. Those guardrails, they are prohibiting people from turning into their properties with equipment and semis. And there's 2 locations I can locate for you that are very bad for big equipment getting in and out. Yeah. So I don't know how to address that, but it was brought to my attention recently. The one I was not aware of, but the other one, it's actually in Councillor Alger's ward, but very close to the border of 3. And yeah, I'm sorry to say, but whoever designed those, there was some poor engineering there. Really bad. I mean, even if I would not cycle on that road. I'm not a cyclist, but if I did, I would not choose that road. There's a couple places where it's literally it's like a death trap. Or if an animal was in there, I mean, do you ever drive that road?
Yeah, I drive all the roads within the CMA.
Yeah.
There's a lot of roads, and especially the 3-digit highways, where our right-of-way was not large enough to make a pavement base large enough to, I guess, accommodate anywhere from 1 to 1.5 meter shoulder. And every time it gets an overlay, it gets narrower.
Yeah.
As far as the guardrail concern, most of those designs are based on I guess, the approach width. And also off the highway and roadside. So if the equipment was having a hard time, then they would actually be falling off of the roadway. The only thing I could maybe, I guess, suggest would be is they would need to apply and have a approach widened to allow for larger equipment to run through.
So can I contact you and help these? I don't know if the one resident in Division 5 would be interested, but definitely my resident who brought it to my attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because he has to literally, he said, back up and like jiggle a semi around to get out. And it's a very busy highway, super dangerous. And
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach out and I can certainly help or get them in the right direction.
okay, it would just be nice when the planning takes place if agricultural equipment kind of takes some sort of priority, because those highways are so busy with cars and it's dangerous to move equipment around. So just if you have any influence in that regard, like I just feel sometimes the agricultural people are overlooked in regards to planning and engineering. So
Yeah, one thing I'll say to that is there was a lot of years where operations was not involved in any planning at all. Over the last about 2 or 3 years before a tender or an RFP actually goes out, they have been reaching out to us to see if there's any issues or comments that we may have. And much of that has been one of them, especially if they're planning on installing cable rail along both sides of the shoulder, and it's already a very tight shoulder. With the size of equipment that's coming in, your air drills and that, it's becoming very difficult. So there are ways for us to kind of mitigate the issue. Does come at a little bit more of a cost to initially install, but there's more of like low profile cable rails and stuff like that that actually allows for the clearance.
yeah, I would think that would be a big issue. I don't haul equipment down 549, that part of 549, I wouldn't want to. But I can definitely get some input from some people who do. If we could mitigate some of those, because like I said, they are awful. So yeah, I guess I'll get in touch with you later and.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you.
And Manager Cornelson has your contact info, I assume. So, okay,
Yes, he does. Yeah.
good. Anything else from ASB? I'm not seeing anything. So thank you very much. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
Just wanted to say it publicly, but your roads are awesome. You know, I like driving down them. They're clean. The snow is cleared and you guys don't get enough credit sometimes.
Well, thank you very much. No, we don't often hear compliments about that, so it's great to hear, and I'll certainly pass that on to Volker. And I guess I'll just mention if there's any other issues as far as road conditions, pavement, surface, right away, anything like that, feel free to reach out and we'll certainly see what we can do.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for coming and joining us. We really appreciate you
Thank you.
taking the time. Okay. We got a few minutes before 9:30, our next presentation. So we'll carry on to item number 5, the minutes of the previous meeting. Trust we've had a chance to have a look at that. Anybody want to give me a motion to approve those minutes? Mr. Rowland gives us that. All in favor? Motion carries. Monthly activity reports. Ms. Webb, is there anything specific you wanted us to see here?
I don't think so. Just our 2 new trucks, the 701 and 702. They both have just got their decks on them. So, and they're just getting outfitted out at Public Works with GPS and beacons and that sort of thing. And
Okay.
I also have a tree report. I don't know that I was gonna do quick now. I guess I have time. Do you mind? I just wanted to go through and kind of give like, let everybody know kind of what our ASB tree program and where the money goes and kind of what we do. So beginning with tree maintenance. So we do regular watering, fertilizing and pruning to ensure tree health and public safety. So tree maintenance is primarily contracted out in community parks and hamlets with some support from staff as needed. So there's the tree inventory and maintenance areas of what the trees that we maintain. So kind of itemized out. You can see like the lake at Heritage Point, we don't maintain all the trees there because a lot of the homeowners look after or they're irrigated, but we do 30. So right now we're maintaining about 275 trees, and this list changes from year to year. But our watering and fertilizing program, so approximately the 275 trees are fertilized and watered on a regular schedule throughout the growing season. And that costs about $12 per tree per application. So depending on the drought conditions and weather, we water around 4 to 6 times a season and fertilizing 1 to 2 times. And the average cost to maintain a tree per year is about $720. So this service is contracted out, but we do occasionally have staff watering when we have time, or we have somebody that has time to do that, or they're available. So yeah, and we just did our final watering for the season on all these trees. For pruning, our pruning is conducted on a rotational basis and also is required when issues arise or we get complaints. So like broken or hazardous branches, sightline obstructions, dead, damaged, or diseased trees. So all pruning of ornamental and boulevard trees in hamlets and parks is contracted out to ensure that the trees are pruned correctly and disease and insect issues are caught early. And pruning costs vary from year to year. So our tree replacement program, on average, will replace about 2 to 5 trees per season. Removal and cleanup of a failed tree is about 600 to 800. Stump grinding is 200, and it costs about 1,000 to 1,500 per tree. So a total cost to replace a tree is about $1,800 to $2,500. So for the most part, again, this is all contracted out. If in certain circumstances, we can use our staff to do the removals themselves, but due to staff shortages and time constraints, this is not often doable. And our rule of thumb for tree replacements in hamlets is if a tree fails along a residence that has more than one county tree planted along their property line, the tree will not be replaced. But if they only had one tree to begin with, we will replace it. And then our roadside maintenance program. So ASB staff are responsible for maintaining roadside ditch tree work throughout the county. And this includes trimming, removal of unsafe trees, and managing growth that may obstruct roads or create hazards. And occasionally when trees are located near power lines or other high-risk areas, we will have to contract that out due to equipment limitations and safety requirements. So that's about it in a nutshell. If anybody has any questions.
Okay, I'm just gonna, recognizing the time. If we can just come back to the activity reports, and then after our presentation, we can come back to the tree thing, because I think there probably are a few questions. So is there any questions about the monthly activity reports? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to accept the monthly activity reports. Okay. We're going to come back to this as part of the operations update. Mr. Nelson gives us that to accept the activity reports. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, we have a 9:30 presentation from Alice. I am assuming we have Christine Campbell with us. Come on up to the front, and thank you for coming. I know Alice has presented to us once before, I think. Was it you personally?
like probably 8 to 10 years ago. It was quite a long time ago. Oh, perfect.
You were there too, so you should know that. Okay, good.
Sorry.
You didn't have to be online.
Yeah, that works great.
And that's how there's.
Perfect.
Well, welcome here, Ms. Campbell. We really appreciate you taking the time. So you have a presentation for us. I think you can just introduce yourself and take it away.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. My name's Christine Campbell. I'm the Senior Western Hub Manager for ALICE. And ALICE is a great program that multiple municipalities in Alberta have adopted and brought in as a tool within their municipality. So I'm here to share information. Kathleen and I had a chat a while ago, and I think I've had maybe a couple conversations at RMA or ASB conference with a few of you over the years too. So I apologize if there's anything that is old news, but hopefully there will be something interesting for you too. There we go. So I like to think about ALICE as this intersection where agriculture and nature meet. A former colleague of mine, Howie Bjorgi, he was the ag fieldman at County of Vermilion River for many years. He used to remind me when I first started that many people think of ALICE as an environmental organization, which is true, but we're first and foremost an agricultural stewardship organization. So I always try to keep Howie's framing in mind. But thinking about it as that intersection really is a great way to think about what ALICE does. More formally, oh, there it goes. Our mission is to engage with farmers and ranchers specifically as solution providers who can provide nature-based solutions on their landscape. And in a nutshell, ALICE is really interested not just in protecting or conserving nature, we're actually interested in producing more nature. So it's really about taking the skill sets of agricultural producers who produce things out of nature every day and ask them to apply that same skill set to marginal agricultural lands to produce what we would call ecosystem services, or all the things that nature can provide for human society. So whether that's water capture and storage for flood and drought mitigation, whether it's biodiversity and wildlife habitat, nutrient cycling, soil health, all of those things. And the short story is just basically trying to take marginal lands that aren't much use to anybody and make them better or more productive. We do all sorts of project types as a result of that. I always like to say it's kind of the Disneyland model. If you can dream it, you can do it. If it produces ecosystem services, it's potentially an ALICE project. Whether it is or is not actually ultimately depends on your community's priorities. So a couple of examples from across our ecosystem. As you can see, we do a wide variety. And we really put the whole ecosystem into scope. So we're interested in that duck, that moose, that tree, that water, the air, the wetland itself. We don't focus on one particular ecosystem or species or anything like that. So some projects are very, very simple. They can be as simple as installing offsite watering systems for livestock, giving them the chance to get out of a more sensitive wetland habitat. That might be with or without fencing. This is an example with fencing, just providing more of a buffer around wetland habitats. Through the support of Cargill, we were able to implement Grazing Forward, which is a program that looks specifically at adaptive multi-paddock grazing, or essentially, giving your grass long periods of rest in between grazes. Other simple projects might include crop buffers. So just actually giving the producer the opportunity to go around a more sensitive wetland or other ecosystem area. Hedgerows or buffers between fields or on field margins. Or eco buffers. This particular picture is hard to see what's going on in it, but it's one of my favorites because this is a really neat collaborative project with the New Murnum School and Foothills County and the producer, where the school kids actually designed this project. They built a watering system from scratch, like they did all the science and engineering for it. And then the like weird L shape around the outside, that's all a very baby eco buffer. So they planted a whole bunch of trees and then the kids figured out how to irrigate them and stuff. So it was a really just a little bit of an anomaly kind of project for Alice, but really fun. So I like to share it. And then some projects are a little bit more complicated. So these kinds of bioengineering projects where we're having big issues with bank erosion or slope sloughing and implementing some nature-based solutions there. And then lastly, as a project example, we have dabbled as well with some conflict avoidance tools. So beavers, of course, love them or hate them. They do provide lots of ecosystem services, and one of the value points that municipalities have found out of Alice is as a conflict resolution tool between neighbors. So, one neighbor wants the beavers, one doesn't. The one that doesn't, of course, it's his land getting flooded out. And so they're able to use the Alice program to help with that kind of compensation. So I'll get to how that works in a second. So Alice is a national charitable organization, but we are really run at the local level. So how it works is the municipality actually adopts the program, and your Alice program is your program. So like Alice Foothills is owned by and operated by Foothills County, or would be. So that means that all of the leadership for the program is held at the local level. It's not, me coming in from Calgary to tell you what to do, or God forbid, my boss coming in from Ontario telling you what to do. Every decision made for individual projects, the kinds of projects that you want to do, kind of strategic planning for the program itself at the municipal level, all happens right here. And we do that through a group called the Partnership Advisory Committee. Partnership Advisory Committee, or the PAC, is similar to ASB in a lot of ways. In fact, when I first started with Alice, I used to recommend that we just use the ASB as a de facto PAC. I've stopped doing that because volunteering busy people into another position somehow is less effective than people stepping up to do what they want. But we do still find that there's lots of crossover in terms of the people that sometimes are involved, or the types of people that are involved at least. Because the Alice PAC has to be at least 50% producers. And that's because we are a farmer-delivered program. All of the decisions really need to be made by farmers and ranchers. Other representatives might include technical representatives, so groups like Cows and Fish, Ducks Unlimited, Alberta Conservation Association, whoever is locally relevant. In some cases, we even have industry representatives sitting on our PACs. And then, of course, municipal representatives as well. Most of our PACs have 1 to 2 councillors that sit on them. So like I said, Alice is across Canada. We're in 6 provinces and 1 US state. But you can see the most dots there are here in Alberta, and that's because Alberta is just the best. But also because the bottom of my map's cut off there, but Pincher Creek's in there as well. It's because Alice really functions very well within the municipal structure. There's a lot of overlapping priorities between municipalities and Alice. We are all about increasing the service level to farmers and ranchers, making sure that we have practical tools and solutions that work on the landscape. I'll get into a little bit more of the details there. But yeah, Alberta's been a stronghold for our program. So each of those 21 municipalities that are currently participating in the program follow our guiding principles. These are the things that we have to follow. So it has to be community developed. That's very important to us, and farmer delivered. I'll get through a couple of these other things like as we go, but I just will say that we are targeted to marginal agricultural lands. We're not about taking good land out of production. We're accountable and have a robust third-party verification system in there as well. And it's a voluntary program. So producers, when they sign up for Alice, they are not signing any kind of long-term agreement. We do not go on title. So it's a very different tool in the toolbox to other good, effective conservation tools like conservation easements. It's a really good alternative. So we sign 5-year agreements with the producers, which is usually a term that everybody can live with quite happily. Those can be renewed over time. So that gives lots of flexibility, especially on working lands. And then even within that 5 years, if the producer needs out early, there's a clause in there that they can do that. So yeah, this solution really has been made in Alberta as much as it was born in Manitoba, and then kind of finessed and perfected in Ontario. It really got its momentum and drive here in Alberta. And I think that's because we really hit the nail on the head in terms of figuring out a program model that really facilitates farmer trust and adoption and builds in all the partnerships that it needs to be successful. So those partnership advisory committees are absolutely crucial to our Alice program model. That's like our one kind of non-negotiable, and that means that they are able to make sure that the program works for their municipality, because even from east to west or north to south within your own municipality, there are differences. Trying to implement a program that is at any broader scale than that, has less likelihood to work for everybody. So Alice is a market-driven program. I like to explain it to friends and family who, for the most part, say, I don't know what you do, Christine. I say we kind of run the farmers market of ecosystem services. So think about it like we are bringing together the farmers and ranchers who have the ability to produce things like cleaner water and biodiversity with the funders who are interested in those things. And then Cargill doesn't have to walk down, 3,000 farmers' driveways, and the farmers don't have to go hunting either. So we do this through 2 mechanisms for the producers, and the way we frame it is that producers are providing a service to society, and Alice allows those producers to get paid for their services. So we do that by cost sharing for the actual establishment of the project. And the reason we cost share rather than just, pay for a project upfront, one, of course, is budget. We want it to go as far as possible. But mostly it's so that producers are selecting projects that make the most sense for them. Like I said, we're not about taking good land out of production. We want it to be something that makes practical sense for them in the long term and works within their working landscape. So we cost share with them on that, usually 50-50, but the PAC can make adjustments for that. And then the really unique piece about Alice is our annual payment structure. So our annual payments are designed for the management and maintenance that it takes to keep these projects up. You were talking about the maintenance costs for trees as an example. So that's what the annual payment is designed to help offset for the producer and compensate them for their time doing that on society's behalf. So again, the PACs are setting those rates. We are a charity at the end of the day, so nobody's getting rich and retiring off of Alice, but it's enough to compensate them and say, hey, you're doing a good job. We as broader society recognize that. So annual payments range across communities. I usually say you can kind of think about land rental rate as kind of a base proxy and then adjust it up and down from there, depending on what your PAC decides. And they are paid per acre per year. So whatever the area that the producer is affecting by their management, that polygon is drawn, and then we pay those annual payments out every year. And then for the municipality side, basically you hold those funds in trust for that 5-year term. So you're never kind of trying to like back fund projects that you've committed to, last year or whatever. They're all pre-funded. So just as an example of that, as a PAC's reviewing their project establishment, they would look at what kinds of labor and materials are required. The producer would provide estimated costs. The PAC would review if there's something that doesn't fit their program. These are all just completely random made up examples, by the way. Do not pay attention to numbers or, if any of it makes sense. But if there was something that didn't make sense for the program, the PAC would pull it out. In this case, it's a new barn that the producer's like, yeah, maybe I'll throw that in there, and then the cost share at the end. Beyond that, the PACs also have lots of flexibility within the program to do additional prioritization. So they might use fancier formulas and things like that to prioritize projects that are happening in, say, a geographic, like an ecologically sensitive area, as an example, or a certain type of project type that they're looking for. You have the ability to make adjustments to that. And then some PACs just also make some administrative decisions to make things easier and quicker to review, like a cost maximum. Like, we know on average that a watering system is going to be $10,000, where that's just going to be our number. Similarly, on the annual payments, because this is a PDF, they're kind of competing with each other here, but that's okay. Essentially, the PAC would look at what was that land used for before, what kinds of project is happening, how many acres are being affected, the rate that they've set for that kind of land use, and then they would set aside that 5 years of payment. And then those renewals or those contracts can be renewed time and time again, potentially in perpetuity. So you can see how that dollars and cents can add up. The other reason we use those 5-year terms is that seems to be a reasonable reflection point for everybody. So producers are able to stop and say, yeah, this project's still working for me. I love it. The PAC's able to stop and say, yeah, we're still getting what we want out of it. And if there's been any major changes in, say, the marketplace for ecosystem services and something's worth so much more, you have the opportunity to adjust that, those kinds of things. But time and time again, every time I talk to the producer, it's not really about the dollars and cents. It ends up being all those intangible things that are a lot harder to describe until you actually kind of feel them. But it's that technical support, it's that pride that you're doing something right and that others are recognizing it and that kind of thing. And then even the resiliency on farm. We've had several years of drought, and I've talked to producers who have said, wow, I'm really glad I did that project because my neighbor's selling cows and I'm able to hang on for that little bit longer. Those kinds of things. Yeah. So, and then for municipalities, why does it matter there? So thinking about the advantage to your producers first, the reason that producers really like Alice is that it is voluntary. No one's telling them what to do, and we aren't going on title or placing any kind of like permanent restrictions on their contracts. Even if their agreement is, let's say they had agreed initially to fully exclude cattle from a wetland because it was badly degraded and it needed, a 5-year period of rest. First of all, Alice is not about exclusion. Like most of the time we have grazing included in those things anyways, but even if it was, and then we had a drought year and the producer comes to you and says, hey, I really need to graze this area. It's all the grass I have left. The Alice program is flexible enough to say, yeah, go ahead and do that. So that's really nice. We're also honoring that full suite of benefits. So we talk about that whole ecosystem services bundle. And it's not just about carbon or whatever the buzzword is at that particular time. And because we're a charity, any of those, any revenues that come in through our corporate partners or governments or whatever, they go right directly back into the farmers' pockets. So it's pretty cool. And then they seem to love the PAC-driven process because they know that it's neighbors adjudicating their project and it's actual farmers making those decisions. So they're literally voting with their boots to join the program. Municipalities too, with 21 participating is pretty good. That's about a third of Alberta municipalities are already on the Alice bandwagon. And they do that for multiple reasons. So one is just increasing service level to their constituents. Especially, it predated me, but I've heard back in the day. I've been with Alice for 10 years, so this is back in the day quite a bit. But there used to be the old PFRA support staff that are no longer there, and people find that Alice kind of replaces some of those roles, as well as Alberta Agriculture has faced a lot of cuts in the time that I've been with Alice. So, and also we're finding that the Alice coordinator becomes kind of that de facto person for people to go to in the county. And then of course they get the support of the PAC and support doing their BMP implementation. And then there's actual, tangible money benefits in terms of things like infrastructure. Honestly, I don't think any of our Alice communities are leveraging the power of Alice enough to for like the potential of what it could be. But Parkland County did win an award from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities a couple of years ago for their work with it. Some of our municipalities have looked specifically at areas like where they're getting frequent road washouts to figure out what they could do maybe upstream to help hold more water. Or one of the innovative ideas I saw was Red Deer County had where they were doing a bunch of snow fencing. So every year they were going in and putting in plastic snow fencing, and there's some biosecurity risks and stuff every time you're moving equipment in. And so they said, well, we could do an eco buffer here and get some of the same benefits. And now they're able to reduce those costs every year. They are not having to put in snow fence. So pretty cool. And then, of course, the community connection. We've had a number of 10-year anniversary events this year happening, and it's really cool seeing seeing the community come out in droves. Again, that's like one of those hard, intangible pieces that's hard to quantify, but it's pretty cool. And then just that opportunity to transfer knowledge and extension between farmers and ranchers in the community. And then we're driving outside investment. So thinking about the dollars and cents of Alice. So usually, so it's a shared delivery mechanism, basically. So you can think about Alice National as being kind of like fundraising support with it. And then the municipalities have some skin in the game too. So that it can look many different ways, right? So not being cagey about that. It's just that Alice is a very, very flexible program. So there's lots of different ways to peel the orange, I guess. Most commonly, the municipality provides the staff for the program coordinator. And then Alice is mostly bringing in the project dollars. That's the most common model in Alberta, but there's lots of different ways around that. And then our dollars are usually coming from outside of the municipality, which is pretty cool. So they can be corporate partners. I know Cargill's a big part of your world. They were a big part, or they are a big part of our world as well. Cargill and A&W partnered together to start the Grazing Forward program. We also have funding from the Alberta government that we've been very generously supported by Government of Alberta through the WRRP, the Wetland Restoration and Resiliency Program. And then hopefully they will support our application for their new Ecosystem Services Grant program as well, which is very much aligned with the Alice model. So that's really exciting. So yeah, and then of course you benefit from the ecosystem services themselves, cleaner water going into your pipes, better habitat and biodiversity, all of those kinds of things. And it can be a rural economic driver too. So we've seen lots of farmers get creative about how they're marketing using Alice and things like that. So, and I'll just leave you with a quote from the Reeve of Brazeau County, Bart Guion. He's been in Alice, not just a PAC member and supporter for a long time, but he's an Alice participant himself. This isn't just about a little project on marginal land, it's the bigger picture. It's what the future of agriculture could look like, offering what society wants to see. So I talked a little bit about that dollars and cents, really what it looks like when a community adopts Alice. It's your program, you're providing the legal entity, you're providing the PAC, you're setting those local priorities, managing the contracts, managing the payments out to producers, and those kinds of things. On the national side, we are providing you with all the support that you need to do that. We have a fully duplicable program. We have a program resource guide. We have all the tools and resources you need to do that, including a proprietary database system and all the technical support associated with that. And then fundraising support is the other big piece. And partnerships are a great way to think about Alice too. We are seeing more and more of that. On this map, all the green communities are going it alone, and all the other colors are in some kind of a partnership together with a number of models. So it's just something that I can throw out there as a way of really reducing any kind of administrative costs and getting the best bang for your buck. So that is it. Our vision is making sure that ecosystem services and nature-based solutions are being produced alongside food. And I promise this is the last thing I will just mention as a kind of a PSA thing. If you had any producers this year who accessed the Government of Alberta's RELP program, that's the Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program. We had nothing to do with the program itself, but we are available to help support applicants. So the program's closed now. We can't help them get applications in, but if you have anybody that's coming to you looking for support on their reports, that's something that we are able to help with. We do have a toll-free line and stuff like that. So I just like to make sure people are aware that resource exists. Okay, that's it now.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Campbell. I'm sure there are lots of questions and curiosities. Just to start, I know in years past, I know there was people who had reached out to your team in Foothills County, curious about the program. Are you still getting people phoning and curious from Foothills County? Yeah, we get quite a few actually. I have a little roster of producers who have asked over the years that I could probably dig up, but yeah, they come in pretty steadily from this area. And I think it's because you've got some neighbors up in Rocky View County that, yeah. Right. And the reason it doesn't happen is because Foothills County doesn't have the PAC program with you guys. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And that's very important to us.
we've over the years talked about, should there be a way that producers could access Alice without community buy-in? And it's just flat out no, because that pack model is really like, that is Alice. That's the power.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Christine, can you just go back 3 slides there? There was just one more. There.
Yeah.
Ecological credit sales portal.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, sure. It's just basically accessing funders who are interested in buying ecological credits. So we have gone down a very long rabbit hole path of getting certified carbon credits. I don't think that that's a viable pathway really for producers to access. But essentially, we want to be able to, if there are credits available for things like biodiversity, water, carbon, whatever, we would be an access point that producers could access those through.
So just cutting to the chase, Cargill doesn't do anything out of the goodness of their heart. So just trying to understand what the advantage is to the corporations that are supporting this program. So
Yeah.
that one, of course, that one jumps out right away
Yeah.
if they're buying back carbon credits.
Yeah, so there are many initiatives underway right now, the 20 by 30 and all of these kinds of things, both nationally, internationally, and then within corporations' own systems to get to net zero and all of these things. So everybody is doing lots of accounting and stuff like that. What is really important when they are doing those things is that they are doing it in an accredited way. If they make a claim that says we have restored 100 acres of nature, that better be verifiable and backed. And that's what Alice allows. So it basically takes it out of greenwashing and gives them something that's like actually tangible. So if Cargill says that they've delivered however many acres via Alice, like we have that fully backed, fully verified, third-party audited, all of those kinds of things.
So it's kind of a way for a producer actually to get some of that carbon credit money back.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Then, so you tweaked my interest on the PFRA. So if we're doing shelter belts may not be on marginal land, but you started off with the school project. So if you're just doing shelter belts on productive land, then would that fit? And then I guess you would probably get compensated for the crop loss of the good soil.
Precisely. Yeah. Yeah. So when I say marginal lands, we leave that up to the producer to decide what's marginal, right? So it might be marginal from a truly soils classification kind of marginality, but it might be marginal because tractor sizes have changed and you can't get into this little patch very easily anymore. Or it's marginal because it just is wet more often than it's not. And you can farm through it maybe 2 years out of 5, but it's just kind of a pain in the butt. Or it might be marginal in that you need something like a shelter belt to protect the productivity of the rest of it, right? So yeah, that's a great example. Shelter belts are totally eligible. Yeah.
Okay, and I won't monopolize, but I'll just leave the floor. But I do want to come back to PACs and a little bit of a review of how we would get that set up. Thanks.
Yeah, so your PAC is designed at the local community. Often the ASB kind of works as an interim steering committee to get that set up. We help guide you through that process, but it's essentially finding a couple of local area producers that would be good candidates for it, figuring out if there's any municipal representation you want, figuring out if there are any local stakeholders or experts that would be valuable. So, for example, In Pincher Creek, they do a lot of wildlife kinds of projects. And so they have Alberta Conservation Association sits on their pack because it makes sense for them. That's an example. Yeah.
Okay. Go to Councillor Alger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Ms. Gamble, for your presentation. You briefly touched on the beaver issues. We have, I would say, several within the county. Mr. Cornelson's familiar with the one in my area. So we have a beaver dam that's on county property. The water's backed up onto private land, and a resident downstream has a license for the water. So we have a real conflict of how to manage everything. And we've done over the years, even prior to Mr. Cornelson being here, we've relocated beaver families. Another family moves in. So it's an ongoing problem. And there was once a solution about putting a cage system in where the beavers couldn't block it off and allow the water to flow. So where I'm going is this something that should a guy like Mr. Cornelson be reaching out to Alice for advice or help or equipment or things like that to?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely talk about it. I would say like the experts in beaver work in Alberta are probably more Cows and Fish and Kirby England out of, he works at the University of Lethbridge, but also has his own consulting company, which has a really fun name that is, of course, now escaping me. But I could definitely connect you with people with that information. Yeah, the beaver kinds of projects that we see usually are things like pond levelers. So they can be quite a useful tool there. It's kind of they're pretty simple solutions, actually. They're like a pipe that goes through. Beavers basically respond to the sound of rushing water. And so you keep it buried under it actually like tricks the beavers into not hearing that rushing water, but it allows that beaver to keep that pond. They still get to keep their habitat, but it keeps it at a reasonable level that everyone can live with. And then through Alice, we've been able to compensate the producer for that loss of field, essentially. And because you're maintaining it at, roughly similar levels, that's pretty easy to do. And then the other thing is, the trademark name is beaver deceivers. I think that's more what you're talking about, where you basically are preventing them from accessing like a culvert or something like that. So we have some projects that have those installed as well.
Yep. Okay. Thanks for that.
So this past spring, the province made changes to their programs for land conservation, no longer funding perpetual easements and now going to term funding and focusing more on this ecosystem services grant program.
Yeah.
So land trusts such as our local Foothills land trusts are exploring what the future holds with this pretty significant change.
Yeah.
So when you talk about partnerships, have you been talking with some of these land trust land trust organizations in terms of their involvement perhaps in ecosystem grant stuff?
Yeah, so we have worked with lots of land trust programs overall. In general, you as a producer, you kind of pick one or the other, right? Like we can't by charitable law, like neither of us are able to pay somebody to do the same thing twice, right? So if something is already protected under conservation easement, they can't also get Alice payments on it. That said, there's always exceptions to every rule, right? So what I find with a lot of the smaller land trusts especially is it's like the easement is just against development. Like they just can't develop the land, but it really doesn't say anything about how they're grazing it or managing it. And so then we're able to help on the management side, if that makes sense. So sometimes they can be stacked, sometimes they can't. And those are always one-on-one things that we have to mire through. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go put on the spot our conservation advisor, McHugh. So this is very much up your alley. Do you have any thoughts to share?
So yeah, this is my second time hearing the presentation. And it's still as wonderful as the first time I heard it. I think that this is a great way to kind of put in some funding for our producers to put in like best management practices to be able to try things out. And and the fact that it's voluntary, we're not putting them in a contract that they can't get out of. I think that's really important for producers. Yeah, I really like this, and I like the fact that it's all community based. Our issues are different from other counties, so we'd be able to design something that would best support producers in our area. Yeah, I think that this is a really exciting program.
Thank you. Any other questions for Christine? Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. So, sorry, just as I was looking at your slides, Mountain View, Wheatland, and Rocky View are all part, and are they sharing their pad? You said some of them actually work together.
Yeah.
So is that like a defined program, or is that they just naturally work together, or do they actually share like administrative duties or staff, or how does that work?
Yeah, so each of those three have independent programs. So each Rocky View, Wheatland, and Mountain View each have a program coordinator and a separate pack, and they run fully distinct programs. Wheatland and Rocky View County work together quite a bit, though. They have often gotten joint WRP grants together for specific like targeted projects. So specifically watering systems along, I think it's the Rosebud Creek and Rosebud and anyway, so, sorry, there's two that they've worked together on. It doesn't matter. But yeah, we do have some communities that are working in partnership and a couple different models for that. So like Wetaskiwin and Leduc work together as one, basically as one program. So they have one pack, one coordinator, and they function as one entity. That would be the same for Barhead, Westlock, and Athabasca. Other models, like Red Deer County has its own distinct program, but then they have kind of reached out and adopted Lacombe County. So they have the same program coordinator that manages both, but they have two separate partnership advisory committees. And until recently, County of Vermilion River was also managing the Flagstaff program, but they were doing it with one pack, like they just had their CVR pack. They are just establishing a new pack for Flagstaff County, though, because they have decided that they actually they're distinct enough that they wanted separate input, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. So the coordinator of these packs, are they county employees then? That's okay. And then that's kind of generally the one paid staff.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's volunteer based and okay.
Yeah, so the packs do get paid per diems for participating, just like lots of council committees. But yeah, other than that, like it's just the coordinator usually. Yeah. And it can range. I always say at least a half-time FTE. It depends. I mean, if you have side of the desk staff, you get side of the desk results, right? For your programs. The most effective programs definitely have more like a full-time FTE working on it. And that's where partnership becomes really helpful, because some of that kind of administrative stuff, the one person can run two or even three municipalities, no problem, as long as they're within a geographic range of each other. Yeah. So there are definitely efficiencies there. So it just kind of depends. It's the balance of efficiency and autonomy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Sorry, is there some support from Alice on the PAC wages? If you were to hire an FTE full-time acronyms are bad. Full-time what? Full-time entomologist? What's FTE?
Oh, full-time equivalent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, the question was, is there support from Alice on the FTE then?
So sometimes, usually the way we look at it is that we both want to have skin in the game. So we think about it more in terms of matching funds. Typically, just because of the way municipal budgets work and the way charitable budgets work, the easiest and lowest stress way for everybody to do it is that the municipality covers the wages, maybe backfilling with fundraised dollars if that's an option. But then they're covered. And I say this just because charitable cycles, we work on annual cycles, right? Like I have grants coming and going all the time. Sometimes it's November 6th. I might get a call today to say, hey, if I give you $100,000 today, can you put X number of acres in the ground before the end of the year? That's just the nature of charitable funding. And my understanding over the years with municipalities is that you work on a 3-year grants or 3-year budget cycle. And so it's nice to have that stability for 3 years and understand that. And so that's the easiest way. Now, that said, every dollar of funding that comes from Alice will come with a set of funder guidelines. And those funder guidelines will outline very specifically what those funds can be used for. So some funds do allow for administrative costs, some do not. And because those vary from year to year, like I said, that's just the easiest way to run that. Sorry.
Okay, so
Yes, but
I guess where we go from here, I'm going to look to Manager Cornelison a little bit. So I guess we'll have a discussion later, but if the ASB was interested in going down this road, we would probably make a recommendation to council. And then if council is amenable, then somebody administration would start putting 2 and 2 together, I guess.
Yeah. So in terms of next steps for us, so we always want to make sure that we have a strong, robust program everywhere that we go. So we go through a little bit of a courtship ritual, making sure it's a good fit and that everybody fully understands kind of the roles and responsibilities and what we're getting on board for. So we would probably do a 201 presentation with staff. So where we would have some discussion and like really hammer out some of those details, like, who's funding what and how are we doing that kind of thing. Make sure that we have a strong, robust plan, especially for funding, but just in general for the whole thing. And then we would go out and fundraise and stuff like that too. So just to manage expectations, that can be there's a little bit of a process there. So. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. Sorry, you said you have had requests from producers in the county.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share that? You don't have to share, specifics, but just a number and kind of recency,
Yep.
just so we can have an idea if we're going to discuss this, that there is some demand.
Yeah,
Please.
that's something we can do. I'm out of office basically this week, but Kathleen, maybe we can follow up next week.
I should also say that actually I this past year I had 3 producers contact me, all of which could have been in about grants, and they all could have been an Alice project. I haven't been here a very long time, so and people don't really know that I'm here. We're looking for grants and trying to get people to apply, but those 3 we could have actually turned into Alice projects.
Okay, thanks. That helps.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
anything
all.
else before we cut Ms. Campbell loose? Oh, go ahead, Mr. McHugh.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, your PAC needs to consist of how many members? I guess I'm looking for the minimum number.
Yeah, I mean, a minimum of 4, but we have PACs that range anywhere from 4 to 15. I personally think somewhere between 5 to 9 is optimal. More than that, it gets groupthinky, and less than that, and you have quorum issues. So
Okay, thank you for that. So sorry, are these existing as committees of councils in other municipalities?
yeah,
All right, and then so you kind of have a standard setup for terms of references and all that good stuff.
yeah, exactly.
One-stop shopping.
Yeah, we've got
Okay.
pretty well everything you need. Everything can be adopted. Change the name.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ms. Campbell. We really appreciate you coming in today and sharing with us, and we'll be in touch down the road, one way or another, I'm sure.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate everyone's engagement and enthusiasm and good questions. And if anyone's at RMA, stop by and see me.
Will do. Okay. Okay, board, why don't we take a 5-minute break and we'll resume now. Welcome back. Okay, so we've had two presentations. I think we'll start back at that. Was there anything anybody want to talk about regarding the Alberta transportation presentation? If not, I would look for just a motion to acknowledge the presentation.
Give me that.
Mr. Rowland gives us that. Not seeing anybody. All in favor? Motion carries. Alice presentation. So where do we want to go with this? So I think we have a few different options. I guess we could just acknowledge the presentation, or we could recommend going down the road with setting up an Alice board or a pack, or any other direction you guys so choose to go. Look for some direction. Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do think it's worthy of a little bit of further exploration. So I think there would be interests. We'd have to figure out how to set up the pack, but maybe a first action item, it would be to have ASB reach out to Wheatland and Rocky View for their experiences. And then I think we would probably have to wait for that report back. I don't know what other comments the board has on what might be exploratory before going that way. I know council would be interested in costs. I think we could probably get this, and I guess we would have to figure out if this is going to be if the pack is going to be another board and committee, then I guess we would have to do a little exploration on how we would get that adopted and set up. So I rambled there a little bit, but I'll just open up the conversation that way.
Further, go ahead, Mr. Stump.
There you go. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think like Keith and I were talking that I think we have to do a little more exploration into the funding and the costs of what that committee member is going to be involved with. That's my idea on it. So just bring that to the table.
Okay, thank you for that. To go ahead, Conservation Advisor McHugh.
So yeah, I just want to throw out there that I did talk to Rocky View County about their Alice program, and one other county that I am drawing a blank on. And I have reached out to Wheatland recently to try and talk to them about it. And I actually haven't heard a single negative experience with it. It's all been very positive feedback from them. And they do believe that it makes a difference in their county.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Alger, were you reaching for your mic?
I was going to make a motion, Mr. Chair, to, I think the way I would word it is to acknowledge the presentation from Mrs. Campbell, and have staff continue a forward progress for Foothills County to be part of the Alice program. Something
Okay.
like that, word it any way you want.
Okay, and that forward progress would be kind of
Just I think
as
what Ms.
administration-
McHugh is doing and reaching out to the other counties is, as Mr. McHugh said, to just garner some more information and get positive feedback and continue on a forward progress for us to join the program.
okay. I'll accept that motion. Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
You need a seconder for that? Because I would second that motion.
Yeah, no, we don't need a seconder, but we got your show of support for sure.
Great.
Mr. Cornelson, you had your hand up there.
Yeah, no, like I think it just goes along with the motion. She did mention something about a 201 or a courtship, sort of, that would be the next step, sort of, that they would come in and explain it more fully to staff. And so that might be, I think that's part of the motion also. It seems like that would be a good place to start.
Okay. Okay, so we have that motion from Councillor Alger to acknowledge the presentation and recommend staff forward. Continue with forward movement. Councillor McHugh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if it's amenable, it would just would just add, in addition to the 201 process, just an exploration from ASB in how to establish a new border committee.
Okay, I think that's amicable, Councillor Alger.
Happy to add that into the motion, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure what this motion exactly going to look like once it's hashed out, but I think we all get the gist of it. Anything else? All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. So we did number 6. Did we do, you did minutes, ASB operations update. So we've started on this tree program. So let's continue down that road before we get to the rest of the ASB operations update. So ASB tree update. Was there anything more to add, Ms. Webb, before we start? Okay. I will go to Councillor McHugh then. I think he's got some questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through the chair to ASB. So on this ASB tree program, when I'm looking at Greenhaven, Lake at Heritage Point, and some of these other ones, I do believe, does the ASB not recover some money back? I believe we have a minimum standard for Foothills, and then I believe that are not some of these costs recoverable because they are above the normal standard?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Well, so I guess I would suggest that needs to be something that is reviewed with Manager Harry Reeve Cambrian, because that was my understanding that anything above the municipal standard, there was supposed to be a charge back from the homeowners associations for extra care and maintenance. So is this number correct? The average cost to maintain a tree per year is $720. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's that doesn't take into the pruning costs, but I mean, we don't prune every tree every year, so it was kind of hard to put that into it. But yeah, that's about to maintain a tree.
Okay, well, I'll just say for myself, I'm taken back by that number, and kind of reiterate, need to a little bit of further investigation as to what we're recouping from community groups that are receiving extra costs, extra care, and making sure we're covering some of that cost. Thanks.
Thanks. I would just carry on down that dollar figure piece. So fertilizing, watering, about $12 per tree per application, 4 to 6 times a year. So we're kind of maxed out about $70 per tree, but the average cost is 720. So the rest of that is pruning and replacement.
Yeah, it's pruning and like in case we have to treat it for disease or insects, that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, and then yeah. So and then it costs. So I was just like trying to compare that it costs, just about $2,000 to replace a tree and $720 to
Keep it going.
maintain it a year.
Okay. And I don't see any trees for Kaylee. Have we removed?
We have done pruning there. We don't have a lot of ornamentals in our parks and that there, but we do pruning and removals that need to be done.
Okay. So there is some trees at Kaylee that we do
Yes.
maintain, they're just not on the list. Okay.
We did some pruning there early this spring, a bunch.
Okay. Was that mostly in the park or was it in Kaylee or where?
No, it was all through, yeah, whatever needed to be done. We had some complaints and then we went in and did a bunch of pruning on it, but just the trees along the streets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Sorry, just I guess through the chair. Is this a line item on our budget? I don't remember. It is because that's $200,000 a year.
Sorry?
Well, I mean, if it costs you $720 to average to maintain a tree and there's 275 trees. Isn't it?
That doesn't, it's not,
Well, I'm just doing 275 times 720 is $198,000.
yeah, that's true. I don't know where I went wrong, but math there.
Yeah, there is a line item for this work, and I think I'm trying to remember do you remember how much it is?
I want to say 60,000.
$60,000 that we spend for dangerous tree removal, things of that nature, or watering. Yeah, so then
Okay. It just doesn't
quite
add up.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't.
So the total number should be 60,000.
I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if the watering and fertilizing would be like 13 grand a year kind of thing if you go 4 times a year. But it just, yeah, I see that number of $720 a tree per year every year. That's a lot.
Okay, I wonder,
Yeah, I'm not sure where I got that number from. Sorry. Yeah, that doesn't add up.
okay, so
That's what I was thinking.
I'll do it
So
for
I-
700 flat.
so I guess the
Yeah.
begs the question. So budget time is pretty close. Are we going to be seeing the full ASB budget, I guess, before December when council sees it, or when do we see the full ASB budget?
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember the timeline, but we've went through the budget, like we've put our numbers into the budget already. And so I think now I'm not sure when it comes to you guys, but before the end of the year, I think, right? Is that usually December time that you guys are talking
Yeah, it'd be
about?
December that council sees it. So
Yeah, so our line items are in there already to take care of these trees. I wonder too if there's some nuance here too. I mean, like a brand new tree would require watering where an older tree wouldn't, right? So then I would assume that like the trees that we take care of change every year as well.
This number changes.
And that line item specifically that we use for contract work, I think there is some of that work that we're doing too when when there's a tree that fails in Heritage Point or something like that, then our crew can take care of it, right? So then they do that too sometimes. And I don't know if that would be above and beyond that line budget items. That would be our crew doing the work. Yeah, typically, when these new subdivisions are getting applied for, I mean, they're putting in lots of park areas, and then so I think from Harry and even maybe from Bree, that we've just always said, well, no matter what kind of trees you put in, to where like if it comes to like in our space, like we will take them down if they're dying or they're causing some kind of safety issue, but we won't replace them. Like that's never part of our for the newer contracts. I'm not exactly sure what I don't know the nuances of the Heritage Point, I guess, or those HOAs, what our agreements are there. Maybe Bree would just have more of an ear there, but the new ones going forward, we've just said, well, if a tree that you plant is in our, kind of, is going to cause some kind of danger, then we'll go there and take it out, but we won't replace it. So going forward.
okay, and go to Councillor Kendall.
Sorry, just trying to get up to speed here. So Greenhaven is a new development just east of Okotoks. And so their share of this whole budget is half. And was there any, I mean, sorry, I should know this, but any development sustainability fees that the residents or the developer had to pay to maintain all these trees? I mean, I look after my own trees, but.
Yeah, that number should change. Like we went in there, our trees that we owned were in a lot of disrepair, and we had to replace a bunch of trees along the berm. So, I mean, that number won't always be the same, but yeah, I mean, I'll have to look into that if we can get
Yeah.
that
It's
money.
just on the
back.
east side of Okotoks. Okay, I'll go to Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll just reiterate this as an action item. So if you replace a poplar tree in Blackie, it costs $25. If you go into Greenhaven and replace a 4-foot spruce tree, it costs you $250. So from what I remember from conversations with the municipal manager is there's a base standard for the municipality. And then for any of the homeowners associations that wanted to receive elevated services over and above the municipal standard, there was a charge to go out to those homeowner associations. So if we haven't got that captured, I hope we could make that an action item to get that sorted out. Because as stated, we have a standard, and I look after my own trees. Blackie gets poplars, and then we go into an area and they want something fancier. I believe what municipal manager Riva Cambrian said is that we'll support that, but there's an additional cost to the homeowners association. So if we're not capturing that, then we should be. And I guess probably Parks and Rec is in there somewhere too, but hopefully that nuance hasn't been lost. So hopefully that can be an action item moving forwards. Thanks.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, no, I've heard that very clear with like that sort of thing with the mowing is like that. So we provide, you know, if homeowners association wants increased mowing than what we provide, which I think is like once a year, then we would provide them with the county. This does not come from ASB, I don't think. But provide them with what it would cost us to do one mowing, right? And then they would pay the rest. Or if they want us to do the one mowing, then we would do it. But the tree thing, I'm not sure. I haven't really, I guess I don't know exactly about how that works. You know, whether that works similar or it's different. But it's something that we're going to look into for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I said the right words, right?
Looks like we need some more clarity.
Yeah.
On this. I'm going to go to Ms. Webb simply because you've been here longer than the rest and maybe know the answer. It's about 7-ish years ago, we removed a bunch of poplars in Blackie and Cayley. I think Blackie was specifically where the big concerns came from. And so we put together a tree replacement program allowing residents to have a tree installed on their personal property, I believe, in lieu of trees removed off the boulevard, blah, blah, blah. My question is, did anybody ever take up an offer on that tree replacement program?
No, not one person took advantage of that
Okay.
opportunity. So.
Okay. So I guess what I'm hearing perhaps is we need more clarity on the tree program, perhaps a double check on the numbers and the process of level of cares. Am I hearing that correct? So maybe we can postpone this till our next meeting for further clarity. Is that where we want to go? Okay. If somebody wanted to give that motion, Mr. Stumpf gives us that. Okay. And you're good with that? You'll get, okay. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, thank you for this. So let's carry on to the rest of the piece in regards to our ASB operations update, page 8 of our agenda. Who's going first, Mr. Cornelson or?
I can go first. I can deliver my manager report here for sure. So I'm just trying to think of where I can highlight a few things. So we're going brushing right now. Our rental grader is at Public Works now, getting outfitted with a sign and stickers and stuff like that. We got our new, we received a half ton from Public Works. We're looking this year to getting a new Halfton, a rental sprayer, 1 flail mower and 2 zero-turn mowers. So that's, I guess that'll eventually come to council, what we were asking for. So part of our budget this year was to, well, I mean, I guess it was online, to replace one of our brusher tractors. And so we've decided to try to go a little different way with that, and instead spend some money on, our request is $50,000 extra to do contract brushing instead of purchasing this tractor. But once again, that's just a request. I don't know how far it will go. And so spraying was completed this year. We responded to about 50 weed complaints in the county in 2025. So that's, I think we just, I'm trying to think, we just really enforced one of those weed notices, I think, right? Yeah, there was only one enforced weed notice. We spot sprayed about 650 kilometers of our road right away this year. And so approximately 150 of those were sprayed a second time for a second flush of weeds. There's the amount of roads we mowed this year was 2,500 kilometers of ROW. So most of our right of way is mowed at least once, not twice. So we're starting tripping. So we got a list, and it keeps growing and growing, where we need to deal with the trees. And I think we talked about that before, but there's some kind of what our plans are for this year. Right now we're on 434, and we're going to move to out west. Or at our ASB farm there. Alberta builders are expected to come near the end of November to put up our chem shed. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do the cement this year or next year. I guess we'll contact the contractors if they think it's worthwhile to do it this year. And other items, strychnine, we sent our letter of strychnine to John Barlow, and our resolutions passed at the South Regional ASB conference. That's dealing with the deaf and the strychnine. And there are some new developments on the strychnine, though, where our federal health minister said that he said that we should be able to access it to the areas in Alberta, Saskatchewan need it. So I think that our MLA or our MP has sent some clarification on when that's going to happen and how fast, and if it can happen in springtime. And yeah, so that's really all I have there. I know I had included here at the end of my report a little issue I was having on Heartland Road, and just wondering for some advice there. There's 2 quarters of land that are full of bladder campion, and the landowners around there have complained now 2 years in a row about them, and just not sure exactly how to deal with that. I know the 1 quarter now, I talked to the guy yesterday, and he said he had sprayed it out. So he had sprayed out his hay field, and I was going to do something else with it next year. So I guess the 1 quarter is kind of taken care of. The other quarter, though, is a hay field, and it's just full of bladder campion. So just wondering if you guys had any ideas, or I know there's 4 ratepayers that will phone me next year again and complain about that one field that has bladder campion on it. And currently bladder campion is not a registered, a regulated weed. So in that way we can't give them a weed notice per se, but yeah. Yeah, so other than that, just wondering if you have any comments about that one field or want some more clarification, but
Any questions, comments for Manager Cornelson? Go ahead, Manager Bear. Your name comes up as not your name. So Councillor McHugh.
Oh, I'm Sherry Lynn Cooper Bear today.
Yes.
So yeah, bladder campion's not regulated, so I don't know what you're gonna do there. Anyway, we met with beaver tooth brushing and think we can get about 15 miles of brushing done with $50,000. So when we're looking at that beaver tooth brushing, what kind of equipment do they have? Are we looking to extend right to the fence line? So we would be brushing right to the perimeter where our brushing units can't get to? Is that what we're looking at? And specifically, what does Beaver Tooth have for equipment?
Sure. So we met with Beaver Tooth because I just didn't know how much it would cost to do it for a contract to this. So we met with them specifically about there's a road that is west of Pritis is a 2 mile. It's about 2.5 miles west, 2 miles west of Pritis, and then it hits. It comes into Pritis right by the. I don't know what that's called. That their hall, and then goes to the highway. So we want it from the highway into Pritis, and then 2 miles west, and right to the fence line. And they have skid steers with brushers on the front, or what you call those, like those mulchers, I guess. And then they also have a track hoe, a wheel tired hoe with a track hoe with some kind of mulcher on it end too, and not only a mulcher, but like I don't know what you call them, a picker. You can kind of pick the top of the tree, cut it off, and put it on the side of the road, and then their skid steer comes and cuts it. And so they have, I think at least one of those track hoes, and they've got, I think, for some reason I remember 5, but 5 skid steers or something like that. So they felt they could. I'm trying to remember the timeline, but yeah, for that specific road, they felt it would cost about $5,000 to $7,000 to do it on contract. And so, and did that answer your question? I think, yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. What size diameter trees are we looking at there?
Brush, yeah.
Well, oh, there is some bigger trees then. Okay.
And some bigger ones, yeah.
Okay, well, so my only comment would be is there's probably 2 or 3. I don't know, I'm not familiar with Beavertooth, but I believe we have like 3 other outfits in the municipality that would offer that service. So I just want to accept Beavertooth brushing. And then my comment is just simply that, if we're getting into timber that's bigger than 3 to 4 inches, that I think that makes complete sense, especially if you can get it right back to the fence line. And then I don't know where we are with saw crews, but if we can't keep up with our own saw crews, then maybe we should also be looking at what a contract crew would be worth to get us caught back up. Those would be my only comments. Thanks.
Councillor Kendall.
Kind of a follow-up from what Councillor McHugh was just saying there. I got a lot of feedback when I was campaigning about, the county owning so much equipment, and is it possible to contract out? But it sounds like you do contract out for ditch mowing and things like that and clearing. So any idea like what the percentage of private contractors is for things like that, or is it on an as needed basis? And just one little adjunct that I'll follow up with a question as well. I had a resident who had an idea, because some people get tired of waiting for their ditch to get mowed and the weeds to get taken care of. So it was just sort of incentivized idea to allow residents to maintain their own ditches for kind of a credit on their taxes. So that's like a bigger question, I know, but that is something that was thrown out to me because of the concern about higher taxes right now and people not wanting to wait. And if you're concerned about weeds spreading, if someone's willing to take care of those weeds before the county can get there. As for the bladder campion, that is in my division. I don't drive by it every day, but I used to drive by a field where it was and they sprayed it once and it's gone. So I thought it was a harder one to get control of, but anyways, just some clarity on those issues. And yeah, if bladder campion's not a noxious weed, if it's just kind of unsightly and people don't like the look of it, it's more a problem for the farmer. It's more lack of yield for them. So it's more of a problem to the farmer actually. But anyways, thanks.
Yeah, so I'll see if I can answer those questions. So currently do all of the mowing ourselves. We don't contract any of the mowing out. We also don't contract any of our brushing out either, except for those dangerous trees that that require that we don't have the I guess the equipment for that sort of work. So this is kind of a brand new thing that I'm just testing out to see if it would work, whether we could contract some of that brushing out, instead of purchasing more equipment, which is, the answer to the other question there. And as far as, giving them incentives, I mean, like we do try to mow and spray all the ditches. And I think for the most part, we get to where we need to be. So I'm not sure how that works. I mean, as far as, letting the resident do that work, I mean, I guess, the thing is, like, we already have staff and equipment that are doing that work. And then I don't know how you'd police that, or, that would seem like that would be, it's something I could think about some more, because I sort of understand that, hey, we're going to take care of this. You don't have to. So, yeah, but I do think there are some issues there, and I can't quite think of what they would be. But when you get into agreements with, I have done that before. I have some experience where residents, they say, hey, we'll take care of our land, and then they don't. And then when you're there with the spray truck, and you're, well, there's weeds there, what do I do? So you spray them, and then they get mad at you for spraying them, because like that was my job. I mean, they weren't doing it. So I knew there's those nuances that might happen, although there would be some that would take care of them very well, and some of them do. But I think that we have adequate staff and equipment to take care of the spraying and the mowing currently. The brushing is the only one where I wonder if we need to branch a little more into the contracting at this point. Yes, I don't know if that answers your questions there, but did that answer them?
Mike.
No, like there's a few areas, and you're right. Like I was dealing with one guy out west there too, and he sprayed it. So I mean, you can spray it, and it does actually a fairly good job. So in this case, it's it's a case of a renter and a landowner, and maybe the landowner not wanting to spend the money. I'm not sure, but I'm trying to get a hold of the landowner who doesn't live in the area, and ask him. I've talked to the renter, the farmer renting, and he's like, yeah, he'd spray it, but just as then he was kind of more concerned about would he recoup the cost from the cost of the chemical. And so that's kind of then a discussion between him and the landowner. Right? Well, then you have to work that into your, and so then I get involved because, there's all these weeds and they're blowing over the road into my land, and that's where the resident gets kind of angry. And so, in this case, I think originally they thought that bladder camping was a controlled weed. And then they said, well, it should be. And then, so that's where that discussion happens. And so, and part of it is that in these cases, like there is some mechanism where we can use, like if it's not a regulated weed and we feel that the farmland is not being used adequately, then we can get involved. It's a little more onerous process, but not something that any county really wants to take over land from somebody. So that's kind of right now I'm currently just trying to hash it out. And I think lots of the times, just so you guys know, that when a landowner calls and sees a weed, they want it taken care of right now, right today. But it takes a couple of years to get, the landowners and the renters and all this stuff. And then eventually they'll take care of it. And sometimes they have a plan. They just, weather permitting or something happens and they just don't get to it that year. And sometimes you just have to be a little bit patient, I think, and which often you can't find out there. So.
Okay.
Anyway.
Anyone, Mr. Rowland?
Just one quick point on people and incentivizing people to do their own, wherever we mow our ditches in front of our house or whatever, the MD still comes along, or the county still comes along and has to go over it anyway. There's no cost saving for the landowner to do it himself, other than, makes it look pretty or whatever. And there's probably some liability to us mowing our own ditches. So that's a non-starter, really, if looking at it from the perspective of the county. You don't want to get into that can of worms.
Okay. Yeah. And for me, I guess just to touch base on the bladder camping, I think if it's non-regulated, so not a lot we can do other than have those conversations. So brushing, beaver tooth brushing, you know, this probably is significantly cheaper than what it costs us to do. And I've mentioned this before, but Kootenai Great All out of Cranbrook, BC, they do lots of brushing out throughout BC. I think their rate is around $600 or $800 per mile. So way cheaper than what these numbers are here. So I would hope that we would perhaps look at a few more options. I mean, if we could convince somebody to come out from BC, it's not that far of a trek for a few days, would do more work than we do in years. So.
Yeah, I guess that number from Beavertooth, that's just a reference. That's I'm working on getting other ones too, so that's just the first one that came in. So yeah, but yeah, for sure we'll work on getting some more numbers for that for sure. Yeah, and that would be something that would, well, the plan originally was just get a number for kind of next year, but then we realized, well, maybe there's, you know, when that number came in at that amount, well, maybe we could fit some of that into this year's budget too. But yeah, I agree with you. We need more than. I guess it's true. We need more than one person giving one budget line, maybe three or whatever for sure. Yeah.
Okay, and go to Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just back on brushing, you know, anything that's getting to be over 8 to 10 inches and we're getting behind on, just I can check, but I think that's probably a size that becomes uneconomical for us to try to get with our own equipment in a reasonable fashion. That I'm just guessing at what our equipment can take down. But the other point becomes, if you're out west, is the reach, because if we're not getting back to the fence line, then it's going to be a continual problem. And if Kootenai can do that for $600, I'll eat my shorts.
Oh man, I hope they can.
Okay, we have a challenge. Okay, I'm going to go to Rural Conservation Advisor McHugh for your update.
Yeah, so on September 25th, we hosted a green acreages workshop with the Land Stewardship Center of Canada. We had 12 people registered, only 7 attended. With this, we now have some of the green acreages workbooks on hand. This is a great resource for anyone that has recently moved to rural living. And they, you know, they might not necessarily know how their trash gets to the dump. Is my road plowed? It kind of takes them through all the basics that they need to know about living in rural Alberta. So if you have any ratepayers that are needing some extra information, this is a great resource. For working wells and septic sense, I believe they held 2 workshops virtually online in September. And then there was 3 other virtual workshops that ran from the end of October to beginning of November. Working wells and septic sense is going to only be online delivery from now on. They're no longer coming in to do presentations. Coming up on November 12th, we have an environmental farm plan workshop in partnership with Foothills Forage and Grazing Association in Vulcan County. And I'm working on finalizing some details for a workshop that will be happening in December about regenerative agriculture. And continuing to actually make a plan and a list and reaching out to presenters to bring more workshops in. Weed Wednesday came to a conclusion on October 8th, and we're thinking that we'll start Weed Wednesday again next year, sometime in the spring. The second ASB update was posted in November. And then, yeah, something else that we've done is we've gone around and put up an agricultural services survey. It's kind of posted around the community in some hot spots that I think that maybe people will pay attention, look at the poster, and maybe answer some questions. Haven't gotten much feedback on this yet, but I'm hopeful that we'll get a few more answers, and just to gather some feedback on our services, gauge interest in workshops. Yeah, our surveys, so the Alberta Wheat Head Survey was completed in September along with the Alberta Canola Survey. We finished our Foothills County Club Route Survey, was completed in October, and no club route was found. Um, The Biocontrol Consortium met September 11th. The terms of reference were finalized and membership applications are open to organizations. A good part of the discussion we had was about the vacancy of the weed biological control entomologist position down at the Lethbridge Research and Development Center. I think we'll talk about that a little further with the letters, so I'll just leave it there for now. And I also attended it was a presentation by Ducks Unlimited, and it was about supporting conservation decisions with biodiversity mapping and assessment tools. And pretty much they're just looking at, hey, can we predict the levels of biodiversity by looking at like an aerial view of the map and seeing what kind of vegetation is present, the amount of it that's present, and just predicting if they can, like, how many different species of animals are there. The municipal reserves, I will leave that for the emergent item. I've got a story with that. And then, yeah, there's the upcoming AGM for the Fish Creek Watershed Alliance that I'm looking forward to attend.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions, comments for Rural Conservation Advisor? You didn't have the lively ones. Okay, thank you for that. Much appreciated. I'll go to Ms. Webb. Your update is complete from what you did earlier. Okay. Okay. So if there's no questions, I would just look for a motion to accept the ASB operations update as presented. Mr. Nelson gives us that. All in favor? Motion carries. On to number 8, vacant research scientist position. Consider issuing a letter of support, page 14. And then we also have the letter was handed out this morning. So Mr. Cornelson, are you taking this or?
So yeah, I guess I can, and Kathy can help me out when she when I fumble. So this came across my desk for the first time from Alberta Invasive Species Council. They noted that there was a position for biocontrol that was vacant, or there was a retiring vacancy, and that need to put some pressure on the federal government to rehire for that position because it is of interest to us. And why is it of interest to us?
So in Canada, when we're looking at approving biocontrols, right, it takes a long time. It takes about 10 years. And there are 2 facilities in Canada that are, their quarantine facilities are actually capable of, when these insects come over from other places, of keeping them in, quarantined and making sure that we don't accidentally release something bad into the environment that's going to cause lots of damage. But without this position filled, they're not going to be able to assess how effective these new biological controls are, or kind of continue research on them with this position vacant. So, yeah.
Okay. Are there other ASBs sending letters do we know of, or?
So I know it was asked through the Alberta Biocontrol Consortium for all the members that were present to consider sending a letter. I haven't heard of anyone else sending one. And I believe it is Alberta's Invasive Species Council. They are for sure sending a letter. And from the sounds of it in that meeting, that there will be other counties and even cities sending in letters.
Okay, Mr. Nelson, go ahead.
Just one question about, so why wouldn't this position just naturally be filled? Is that not something that would, sorry.
Yeah, so from experience, when a position like this sometimes goes vacant, there's a retiring position, and the government will just wait. And then if nobody raises any alarms, then they don't fill it.
Okay. Then I would, if we are going to send this letter, which I'm not opposed to at all, I'd suggest we add our MP Barlow onto that as well as critic for ag as well. And he could probably make some movement there too.
Okay. Mr. Roland?
This is a no-brainer. if we're the only ag service board that sends one, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, yeah, so I'd look for a motion.
Yeah, I'd make the
Mhm.
motion that we
Okay.
send the letter, adding on Barlow and anyone else you think, maybe RJ Sigurdson as well.
Okay, take that motion and go, Mr. Stumpf. Are you ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries. Scentless chamomile bylaw. Mr. Cornelson or page 14, no, 18 of our agenda.
So I do think it came up at the last ASB meeting about the Senate Chamomile bylaw, or whether there was one, and I don't think there is one currently. And so then I guess the discussion is, do we want to, currently scentless chamomile is a noxious weed, so it's a regulated weed that we can issue weed notice on currently. I think the only difference, right, so then if somebody has scentless chamomile, then they have to they have to, do something to control the weed on their property, essentially. But if it's elevated to prohibited noxious, then they have to remove and destroy all plant material from their property. And if we find it, then we must give a weed notice instead of, doing it, not necessarily giving a weed notice right away, and sending a letter or something. So, so that's kind of the difference between noxious and prohibited noxious. And so, currently, I feel that we can effectively control it at its present designation. So I wouldn't think it needed to be elevated to prohibited noxious, but maybe you guys feel differently. I'm not sure.
Okay, so the recommendation of staff is to not proceed with the bylaw. Okay. Those of you weed experts or anybody? Go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
What did you say? The recommendation of the staff is to not proceed with
It
it?
says to not proceed, the board not recommend to council, or sorry, let me just go back up on page 18, right about the middle. Under background, ASB staff feels scentless chamomile can be effectively controlled with its present designation of noxious weed.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no experience with scentless chamomile, so I have no opinion. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
I have lots of experience with scentless chamomile, but I also don't like the heavy thumb of the Gestapo coming down and saying I must and they have to and all that sort of stuff. But boy, living downstream from the scentless, what used to be the scentless chamomile capital of North America, Okotoks, I've rogued more scentless chamomile than a seed grower has rogued weeds. And it sure would be nice if, somebody could control it. But having said that, the noxious weed thing probably is adequate.
So yeah, maybe just a little quick comment too. The province takes a look at these weeds from every so often. They do a review of them. And so the reason that sometimes weeds are moved from, say, prohibited noxious to noxious is because they realize that we can't, eradicate them. And so that's kind of why they're often moved to noxious from prohibited noxious, because they're kind of too widespread. They've, essentially they've gotten out, and we can't destroy them, but we can still control them. And so typically prohibited noxious is kind of weeds that, on that list, if you take a look, are weeds that, you are hard to find or you can't find in Alberta, so that if there is ever one found, we get in there and destroy it quickly so it doesn't spread. And so when they move to noxious, then it's more of like, well, we've kind of lost that battle. Now we're starting the battle at this level. So.
Okay. Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Much the same as Mr. Rowland. I've rode lots of it. I have my own little special patch and it just exploded this year. So working on keeping it under control. But so I'm glad we've got some heightened awareness on this from my years up in Drayton Valley. If a grader gets a hold of this along a roadway, then we will be in trouble. So I think ASB is aware of this, but and gravel pits are terrible. All the normal transportation corridors, and I guess just extra diligence by all of us in here to keep an eye out for it. But made lots of money in Drayton Valley chasing down scentless chamomile, and you get one grader go along and drag it down a roadway because they didn't clean their equipment off, and then you got it for miles. So yeah, that's a nasty one. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm sensing support for leaving it as is, just as a noxious weed and not elevating it. So if anybody wanted to give that motion or alternative,
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Chair, that we go with the recommendation from staff.
okay, so do not recommend elevating. Okay. The board not yeah, you bet. Okay. Any further comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. Upcoming events, is there any events? Go ahead, Mr. Cornelson. Oh.
Yeah, so.
Sorry, I'm just going to skip over to Mr. Anderson there.
Yeah, while we were talking about bylaws, I just wanted to get a status update on our invasive species, aka wild boar bylaw.
So that was recommended to council.
Yeah, I think it's moving towards council, right? That's the next stage.
Yes, Legislative Services is just taking a peek at it now, and we'll send it back to Ag Services to bring forward to council.
Okay.
As the same thing with the wild caraway and the establishment of an ASB is in the same. Yeah. Areas.
Okay, thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cornelson, with upcoming events.
So I guess in-service training for Kathleen, Bree, and I are going to be going to in-service training December 1st to 5th. That is one of them. And then just a question of who do you think, maybe you guys can just give me a rough estimate whether you think you're going to come to the Ag Service Board Conference next year, January 20th to 22nd, in the same place it was last year.
Okay. Okay, well, we can maybe just have a look at your calendars and let Mr. Cornelson know before the end of the day.
You're coming? Okay, good.
Okay.
Got one coming for sure.
And that was all?
I
Upcoming
think that's
event?
everything, yeah. Yep.
Okay. For information, so we have a letter regarding highway right-of-way maintenance from Brazeau County. Letter consideration of the cull order at the Universal Ostrich Farm in BC. Letter state of ag disaster and proposed assistance, Thorhild County. And a letter well site reclamation from Brazeau County. Anything specific out of any of those anybody want to talk about? If not, I just look for a motion to acknowledge. Councillor Alger.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just heard on the news on the way in this morning that the Supreme Court of Canada has denied the appeal for the ostrich farm cull. So this letter may be negated. Thank you.
So the cull order is proceeding. Okay. Councillor McHugh.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chair. To the chair, to Mr. Rowland, do you have any other info on what they're doing with this well site reclamation? What's the suggestion here? They're only going to do the they're not going to remediate the soils?
I can't add anything to that. That's between, yeah, I can't speak to that.
Fair enough. Okay, Mr. Nelson, did you ever? Oh, sorry. You gave me a motion to acknowledge the letters?
Mr. Chair, just
Go ahead, Mr. Alger.
one thing if I could add also, I heard on the news this morning that there was a alert for the High River area for avian flu. So they're finding some dead
Oh, yes.
Canada geese and whatnot around the area. So
So for anybody
pay
with
attention to that one coming up.
backyard chickens, need to be on high alert. I wonder if that might be something, bit of a Facebook post just to warn people and let them know what precautions to take. Okay, so we have that motion to acknowledge the letters from Mr. Nelson. All those in favor? Motion carries. So we just have the addition to the agenda, 12.1 MR licensing. So we received that email and we have the letter before us today. Ms. McHugh, go ahead.
Yeah, so a story that I've kind of heard from a few ratepayers is, there's this MR beside their place. It's not used. They're typically smaller parcels, and they would like to go and mow it. So right, they come and they call the office, and then they get directed to the municipal reserve licensing, which it come closer. Yeah. But right, they get directed to the municipal reserve licensing, and it's quite expensive for if they're just going to go in there to mow. So I kind of wanted to explore the idea of putting in just like a simple liability waiver for people who would like to just maintain these MRs, and kind of for nonprofit. Um, and this would help us out. It would support weed control, help with fire prevention, and increase the appeal of the community. I guess I'm not totally sure why we're denying people from just going in to go mow. But if we had a liability waiver that lists what they can and can't do, wouldn't that circumvent them? And I figured with this in place, if there was an interest or someone did want to put a bid in the MR, then this kind of liability waiver could be put to the side and the bids could come in if someone wanted to do something else with the land.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
How many municipal reserves do we have?
A lot.
And do you know how many are rented out or currently?
I'm not sure on that number, no.
I sort of think for the ones that we're talking about, they aren't rented out though. They're small little pieces that I think at one point maybe a farmer would have baled 1 or 2 bales off of it, but now nobody's interested anymore. And they're willing to go in there with their own equipment to mow it or whatever.
So the idea would be like, I have a friend that lives right next to one. He rents the municipal reserve like $100 a year. He doesn't mow it, but he grazes sheep on it. Does that classify as like, how would you figure out who doesn't have to pay and who does have to pay? Like, he's not a farmer, he's an acreage owner. Is he farming for profit? Well, he's got sheep. Depending on how you want to look at it, it can be. That's right. So I just don't know how you would want to. I mean, I like the idea of it, but it's just how would you maintain it, or is this just more? Would it be more? Yeah, I guess how it would look, and how would you decide on who gets to not pay and who does pay?
So I think that could come back to kind of to our ASB board where we could list what would be considered an acceptable practice versus not. Yeah, that's a good question. And how to make sure that, I don't know, I'm kind of when you think about land that sits there that's unused, it does no one any good. Like, so even, I don't.
Right. Okay. We'll go to Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, sorry, is this request for a liability waiver? Don't we have a stewardship license? Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, is this for someone that is not renting an MR and just wants to have a stewardship? I believe we have a stewardship license.
There is a stewardship license. There absolutely is. But like when you look at the MR licensing, right, you have to pay about $700 up front for 3 to 5 years. And then there's that, you know, it's $30 per acre for stewardship activities. And lots of people can't, it's not justifiable, you know, and I think in the ratepayers' eyes, you know, it's more that they're doing us a favor by taking care of it versus,
Well, sorry. Well, something doesn't make sense. A stewardship license costs $700.
so there is an application fee for the license to even go in front of council. They need to pay $100 for it to be presented. And then there's an initial application fee and a final application fee with that. And it ranges depending on if it's a new license, it's a transfer, a purchase, or a municipal parcel lease or license. And so that upfront cost is around $700. And lots of people are turned away by that because they don't want to pay $700 to go and mow the MR.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. So when you say the individual would still have to prove insurance, you can't have, it may be a possibility to get those fees waived for stewardship license, but the individual would still have to prove insurance. So is that your request when you're asking for a liability waiver? What specifically are you asking for on the liability waiver? There still has to be insurance to make sure that everybody's covered off.
Yeah, so I was hoping, I still need to follow up with planning on this to further those details. Because I don't know what would all be involved in making a liability form, but I think that a liability form saying that you have insurance, what activities are acceptable, what aren't. Yeah, I was thinking just something really simple, but.
Okay. Councillor Alger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to speak to Mr. Nelson's question. So typically if somebody wants to utilize an MR, they will make a request typically through one of the counselors. It goes to, when it goes to the planning department, that's what the $100 is for, just to cover the staff time. It has to go to public notice. So, you know, staff has to do the forms. We have to advertise in the Western Wheel. And then it comes back to council. And then if there's 2 different or 3 different people that want to rent it, then we decide through council, we decide who's the best appropriate for the lands and come up with a cost accordingly. And some of them are bigger parcels, obviously, around our gravel pits and things like that, but lots are just country residential parcels that were given in lieu of municipal reserves when subdivisions occur and things like that. So that's, again, that's why the cost is there, is just to cover the staff time and advertising, things like that. Thanks.
Go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
Are we not paying the staff anyway? Like, if they didn't do the work, they'd still get paid? If this request didn't come through?
Yeah, it does take a lot of time processing some of these things on staff side. Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I would just suggest that, am I not so if it's a grazing reserve license and somebody wants to use it for grazing, we have a fee. I don't have the fee bylaw in front of me, but do we have a specific one listed as stewardship? Because that is not, like, stewardship is just taking care of it, not using it. So
I'm going to go to Conservation Advisor McHugh.
So yeah, I do have a copy of the fee bylaw schedule for this. And stewardship is listed with a minimum bid of $250 and a lease rate of $30 per acre per year.
Did you have more?
No, just to say we got to get some clarification on what's going on there because that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. So it sounds like perhaps the whole process needs to be reviewed and the price. Because even the application fee you said is 700.
It's about that.
Okay, Mr. Stump, go ahead.
On those reserves, what size parcels are they?
So from what I've heard, they're mainly like 2 to 5 acre parcels. You know, they're small parcels that really don't have any production value necessarily. Yeah, those are the ones that I've heard about.
Would it be more beneficial if DMD got rid of those smaller parcels? I know they have sold some in before, but as a long-term solution.
Yeah, that absolutely could provide a solution here.
Because there's a lot of landowners that would like to add to their balance.
So perhaps I can take that question. The county does own a lot of MR parcels, particularly around where there's been development. So if the county sells them, then the money goes into a public reserve fund, which has very limited options for use. Like it cannot be used for general municipal expenditures. And so the question that comes into play is, are you better having that asset in cash in the bank or in land sitting for future use someday down the road? So I think that's why there's been a lot of these MR parcels just sit, because there hasn't been a need. And we know that money in the bank does tend to erode just with inflation quite rapidly. So council has looked at a few occasions at terms of selling some MR parcels. And to do that, it has to be rezoned. And we have looked at rezoning some, and it's kind of a continual thing. We'll continue to go down that road as we need the money for MR purposes, such as schools are the primary use of MR, our public reserve dollars.
And sports facilities would be classified in that too? Like
I believe recreation it
towards
was limited.
Freeman Stadium, other sports facility. Yeah, that too.
No. I perhaps would not want to commit an answer in that regard. I think there is some opportunity there, but it is limited. But
Okay.
yeah, unless somebody else wants to. Okay, we'll go to Mr. Rowland.
Well, I like the premise that Ms. McHugh has brought up. Let's find a way to make it easy to look after these little cutoff parcels. We're not talking about the 50-acre ones. We're talking about the little cutoffs. At least in the land trust world, that's what we call them, cutoffs. Stranded, per se. So let's find a way to make it work for her.
Okay, Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, I agree with Phil, Mr. Rowland, that if for the next meeting, or whenever possible, we could get a map. I was just trying to find one, that just shows the county and shows all these little reserves so that we can look at it. And to Mr. Rowland's point, find those cutoffs that we can just cut off. Make it simpler if that's possible. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McHugh, are you up from before?
No, I was just gonna comment. So the MR funds it's a gray area in the MGA, how far we can push the envelope, but I'm working on pushing that envelope. Anyway, we'll have to, so we could address this through the fee bylaw. Just trying to think of what this motion is going to be, because the fee bylaw is up this fall. So that is something like, what would the recommend do? How do you think we should address this? Should we address it through the fee bylaw? How do we get a motion coming out of ASB to address the stewardship fee, or what other action can ASB take?
I think the whole process needs improved. It's not just the fee bylaw is what I'm thinking. So I'll go to Councillor Alger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Ms. McHugh touched on it just briefly when she said we need to deal with the planning department. This will be a planning decision based on recommendations from ASB to have a look at it, but in the bitter end, it'll be a planning decision to come to council for recommendations. And also to Mr. Nelson's question, I have a map on my computer you can come and look at. It shows all the MRs.
Okay, so the proposed motion in the sheet provided was that the board recommend to council to allow ratepayers to maintain municipal reserves at no charge by signing a liability waiver, provided there are no bids for the municipal reserve and the maintenance is conducted on a non-profit basis. So provided there are no bids, so that means we'd have to go out for bids to do that. So is that the motion we want to go with, or? Oh, sorry, go on, Councilor Adger, you. He's up from before. Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Well, I guess I would, my suggestion would be that we kind of push this down to the next meeting so we can have a little bit better understanding. I don't know if we're ready to move with the proposed motion. I guess it's up to the board, but I don't think we have all the information yet. It's my suggestion.
Okay, so postpone. Okay, was that a motion?
Sure.
Okay. Councilor McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just speak in opposition to that motion, just because we have budget and fee bylaw schedules coming up this fall. So the quicker, I think there's enough in the motion to get it in front of council for further discussion. So if we do move forwards now, there's actually a chance we could maybe get it addressed this year. If we postpone to our next meeting, we might miss that window.
Change things.
I know the fee bylaw is a no.
I'm just gonna put ledge services on the spot, if I may. So if we don't postpone this and proceed, it'll probably get on council's agenda end of November at earliest.
Yes.
Which would be pretty much too late for budget purposes.
Yeah, I think the budget is set for the beginning of December,
Okay.
the budget meeting.
Okay, I don't know. So I'd like to hear from the rest. Go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
I also would like to see this put forward and let the chips fall where they may, as opposed to postponing it.
Okay, anything else before we call the vote? So we have the motion to postpone. All those in,
It's not a motion to postpone,
Or-
just try to find more information for the next meeting.
to get,
Yeah, I'm not trying to punt it down the line. I just didn't realize budgetary issues are an issue. Like I'm not, there's not a hill I want to die on at all.
okay.
I didn't understand that we have this kind of timeline here that we need to fit into if we're gonna make it happen.
Were you wanting to withdraw or change your motion? Is that, or, yeah,
Need another cup of coffee. I want to postpone the postponement.
okay, Councillor Alger.
I think, I don't know when the deadline is for agendas, Felicia, me, you can maybe help with that, but like just as a discussion with council could be on in 2 weeks kind of thing. Like not next week, but the week after, we can get it as a line item on our agenda and just have a, whether it be a closed session or a 5-minute chat. Planning, head of planning director, I mean, he's gone for a couple of weeks, but I'm sure Mr. Granson could speak accordingly to it. If it was able to get on the agenda for next week.
Yeah, well, that's fine with me. I can rescind I'll take my
Take-
motion back.
Okay, we'll withdraw that motion.
We can do whatever.
Shouldn't use your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm taking my motion back.
Okay, got it.
Take it home with me.
Now the slate is clean. Who wants to provide a motion?
Now one of you guys got to do something. Motion.
The motion recommended is recommend to council to allow ratepayers to maintain MRs at no charge by signing liability waiver, provided there's no bids for the MR and the maintenance is conducted at no cost. That's the recommended motion. Mr. Rowland, did I see your hand up?
Yep. If we went with that, that would go to the council and you guys would discuss all of that and something might fall out from that? Is that, or do you just vote yes or no on it? How does that work?
No, it'll be hashed out by even more at that point, and there'll probably be more information brought forward as well.
So I'm good with the motion as it reads then.
Okay, so I'll take that as a motion from Mr. Rowland. Okay. All in favor? Motion carries. That concludes our agenda. Next meeting date, January 8, 2026. And if there's nothing else, motion for adjournment? Mr. Stump gives us that. All in favor? Motion carries.